Hello! I hope everyone is doing okay. Even if we're all stuck at home, I hope everyone is still safe and healthy and also having fun with their parents, their siblings, their brothers, and their sisters. So before we begin, I just want everyone to pray with me first. So I want everyone to put their hands together, bow down their heads, and close their eyes, and repeat after me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful Sunday that we are able to listen to your word. We thank you for our home that you have given us to keep us safe and protected. We continue to pray for everyone in the world that you may help us stay safe and healthy from the coronavirus. As we listen to our story for today, may you help us listen attentively and understand the lesson. We lift up everything into your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so our story for today is about a man named Daniel, a faithful man who was saved by God because he always prayed to God and always loved God. So long time ago, there was a king, and this king's name was King Darius. So King Darius was the leader of a very big kingdom, and so he needed help from a lot of wise and good leaders. So he chose for himself a number of leaders that would help him lead the big kingdom. And one of them was a man named Daniel. So Daniel was a very good man. He was very faithful to God. He always prayed to him 3 times a day, and he would not be afraid to show it to other people, that he was very faithful and that he loved God very much. And so, God was always with him, God was always protecting him, and because of this, Daniel became a very wise leader and a very good leader. And so King Darius started to love him very much. Daniel became King Darius' favorite among all the other leaders. And so King Darius was planning to give Daniel more power over all the other leaders that he chose over the kingdom. And so when the other leaders heard this, they started to become jealous. They said, "We don't want Daniel to have more power over us. That's so unfair." And so they went outside and they planned together to kill Daniel. They were looking for something bad or something evil about Daniel so that they can finally trick the king into punishing Daniel or killing Daniel. So they were spying and looking at Daniel. Every move that he makes, he was looking at Daniel. And they could not find anything because Daniel, remember, he was a good man. He was a faithful man who always followed God and all the rules of the kingdom. And the only thing that they could think of was that Daniel was a very faithful man and who always prays to God 3 times a day. And they said the only way we can find something bad about Daniel or kill Daniel is if we go to King Darius and trick him into making a law that is about Daniel and his God. And so they went to King Darius and they said, "King Darius, you're a very, very good leader, a very powerful leader, a great leader. Why don't you make a law that will say that everyone in the kingdom should only bow down to you and not to any other gods? And so if other people in this kingdom would bow down to other gods, they would have to be thrown into the lion's den." And so King Darius was thinking, I think that's a very good law. I like that law. I like everyone to bow down to me. And so they said, the jealous leader said, okay, why don't you sign the law so that this law will be permanent and no one can ever change it again? And so King Darius signed it, signed the law so that no one can ever change it. But he didn't realize that he was already being tricked by these jealous leaders into punishing Daniel and killing him and throwing him into the lion's den. So when Daniel heard about this new law, what did he do? He went back home, just like always, with his windows open wide for everyone to see. He kneeled down, and just like before, he prayed to God 3 times a day. He wasn't afraid of the new law or being thrown and killed by the lions because he knew God was powerful. And so when these jealous leaders were spying on Daniel, they saw what Daniel did. He was praying. And so they were so excited. They said, finally, we have caught Daniel. And let's go to the king and tell him about this so that he will be thrown into the lion's den and killed. And so they went to King Darius and told him about Daniel. And when King Darius heard about this, he was so sad. He was so disappointed. He was so worried about Daniel because he didn't want Daniel to get killed. He didn't want Daniel to be eaten by these lions. So he was trying so hard to think of a solution to help Daniel get out of the problem. But he couldn't think of anything because remember, he already signed the law. He could no longer change this law because it was already permanent. No one can ever change it. And so he was so sad, but he had no choice but to tell Daniel, I'm so sorry, I had no choice. I just hope that your powerful God, whom you always pray to, would help you and keep you alive from these lions. And so Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, and a huge stone was used to cover this big hole where the lions were, and the king sealed it so that no one could be able to remove this huge stone. And after this, the king went back to his palace very sadly and very worried about Daniel because he loved Daniel. He didn't want him to get killed. So he was worried all night. He could not eat, he could not sleep, he could not do anything because he was so sad and very worried about Daniel. And as soon as morning came, as soon as he saw that the sun was rising, he ran down to where Daniel was. And then he shouted, Daniel, Daniel, are you still there? Are you alive? Did your God save you from those lions? And then he heard a voice. And that was Daniel's voice. Daniel was still alive. And so he shouted, yes, King Darius, I'm still here. My God has helped me from these lions. He protected me. He sent down his angels to close the mouths of these hungry lions so that they could not eat me. They could not harm me. And so King Darius was so amazed by God's power because in the past, everyone who was thrown into the lion's den was immediately eaten by these hungry lions, and only Daniel was able to survive this because of God's power. Daniel was a faithful man, and so God helped him. So King Darius was so happy and was so excited that he shouted, guards, help Daniel! He's still alive! Come help him out of the lion's den! And so Daniel finally got out of the lion's den, and King Darius and Daniel were so happy. But King Darius remembered those jealous leaders who tried to trick him into killing Daniel and throwing him into the lion's den. He said, guards, get all those jealous leaders who tried to trick me, and together with their wives and their children, throw them into the lion's den. And so these jealous leaders and their families were all thrown into this lion's den, and everyone was immediately eaten by these hungry lions. And so, after that, King Darius made a new law. And this new law was, again, about Daniel and his God. Remember, King Darius saw how powerful Daniel's God is. Who is Daniel's God? Our God. So he remembered how powerful God is. And he made a new law saying that everyone in the kingdom should know how powerful Daniel's God is, and that everyone should fear the God of Daniel because he is the most powerful among any other gods. He is the most powerful. He is more powerful than King Darius himself and all the other gods that everyone else would be praying to. Only God is the most powerful. And so that was the new law that King Darius made. So here in the story, we see how God is a very powerful God, just like how he was able to protect and save Daniel from all those hungry lions. He was able to shut the mouths of all those hungry lions and keep Daniel alive. Because Daniel was faithful and always prayed to God, God protected Daniel. Just like how if we're afraid of getting sick, or if we're afraid of the dark, or if we're afraid of being alone, afraid of cockroaches or fire or monsters, we should always remember that God will protect us and that we'll always be saved by God as long as you remember to pray to Him and remember how powerful God is. Okay, so let me ask you again. Do you remember the name of the man who was saved from the lions? What was his name? His name was Daniel. And who protected Daniel from being eaten by those hungry lions? It was God. God protected Daniel because God is very powerful. God can do anything, can do great miracles, and can help us in any problems that we have. And so what did Daniel always do? Because he was a faithful man, he would always what? He would always pray to God, and that's why God was always with him, and God was always protecting Daniel, that he was able to save Daniel from such a scary situation where he was thrown into the lion's den, right? Okay, so before we end, just like always, we will have our memory verse. So for our memory verse for today, we will have Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. Can you say that? Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. And it says, God saves us. He does wonders in heaven and on earth. Can you repeat after me? God saves us. He does wonders in heaven and on earth. So let's say that 3 times, and then you can go ahead and ask your parents for help until you've memorized it, and then just go back to this video once you're done so that you can all pray together. So let's just try to say that 3 times first, and then you can go ahead to your parents. Okay, so where do we find it in the Bible again? Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. Can you say that? Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. God saves us. He does wonders in heaven and on earth. Second time. Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. God saves us. He does wonders in heaven and on earth. Last time. Daniel chapter 6, verse 27. God saves us. He does wonders in heaven and on earth. Okay, you can now go to your parents and then ask for their help so that you can memorize it faster. Then you just pause this video and then you can go back once you're done. Okay, so let's pray. Let's put our hands together, bow down our heads, and close our eyes, and let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the story that we had today about Daniel and how you protected him from those lions. We thank you that you are our God, the most powerful God of all, who is able to protect us and keep us safe from whatever problems that we're facing or whatever our fears are. We pray that we always remember that you are the most powerful God, that we should always just have faith in you and just pray to you whenever we're worried or we're scared, and that you'd be able to protect us and be there for us. We pray for all the people who are sick right now, that you may be able to heal them, that they may be able to recover soon. And we pray for all those frontliners right now, the doctors and the nurses who are risking their lives to protect the whole country and the whole world, that you may continue to protect them and give them the strength to fight the coronavirus. We pray for our government officials, our leaders, our president, that you may give them the wisdom to make the best decision for our country and our world. We continue to pray for this coronavirus, that it would soon end and that we'd be able to go outside, meet our friends, and also meet each other soon. We lift up everything into your hands. In Jesus' name we pray.